And I'm so excited for today and this message. I get to bring the message on Mother's Day. This is year 3. So 3 years ago, I was pregnant with Maverick. Last year, I had, how old was he? Like 5 months? Yeah. And this year, I have a 16-month-old and a little baby in my tummy. So I'm so excited to celebrate Mother's Day with you guys today. And right now, this is what I'm going to do. Right now, I just feel like this is what I would want. I want to give some mamas a hug on Mother's Day. So I'm going to start over here. Happy Mother's Day. Come on, where's the other mamas that want to hug right now? Because I want to hug some. Yes, come on, girl. Emma, with all those cute little children you have. Joe, come here. Believing for it. Happy Mother's Day. Gina, of course, happy Mother's Day. And like the mom of twins right here, gotta give her a hug. Happy Mother's Day to you. Listen, I also have so I don't know if you know this, but when you came in, you had the option to put, if you're a mother, to put your name in a raffle. And I have the winner already. So I have a mom right here that has won the Authentic City Church Pamper Yourself Mani Petty. And it goes to none other than Miss Bailey Smithers. Come on, give it up! Happy Mother's Day, Bailey. I love you. Here, give me a hug. And this is us, Bailey. I mean, I love all my mothers. But I have a special heart right now. I've been praying so hard for Bailey and her baby, and we are believing that the Lord is doing a miracle right now. The doctors have given her a report. Is it okay that I'm sharing all this? Okay. It's like, just doing it. And I'm out of breath because I'm pregnant, okay? It's real. But the doctors have given Bailey a report that's not really like conclusive. They don't really know what's wrong, but we are believing there is nothing wrong with your baby boy. He's going to be born healthy in Jesus' name, and I've been praying for that. So y'all can go ahead and have a seat. Since it is Mother's Day, I want to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and give you the title of my message. In honor of Mother's Day, the title is called Mama Faith, okay? Let me explain to you what I mean when I say mama faith. I'm talking about that relentless, don't quit, never give up type of faith, because that's what it takes to be a mother. If you're like, I don't really want to do tomorrow, too bad, so sad. Like, you just got to do it. Like, you're too tired, I don't care. You're a mom tomorrow as well, okay? Once a mom, always a mom. So that's what I'm talking about, that mama faith, that you don't quit faith. No matter the situation or the circumstances, there is faith within you, and that is the mama faith I want to talk about today. And I'm sorry if you're a guy, you still need that mama faith, okay? Thank you, babe. So when I think of mama faith, there's this story in the Bible that I really like. And one of the reasons I really like it is because it is like a straight-up telenovela. So I didn't grow up watching soap operas, okay? There was no days of our lives or anything like that. But even when I came to the United States, so I'm Colombian, but even when I came to the United States as a young girl, we still watched telenovelas, okay? And so I thought about this. I was like, what makes a really good telenovela? And I've come to realize the more ridiculous, the better. Right? If your villain hasn't died and come back to life a few times, are you even watching a telenovela? I don't think so. So this story reminds me of a telenovela because it's got your drama, it's got your protagonist, it's got your villain, it's got an impossible situation to overcome. But on the real, it's got your drama. And I don't know why we love drama so much, because God is not drama, but people drama. You know what I mean? So if there's people involved, you know there's a problem. So we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 1, and I'm going to set up the story for you real quick because we're going to start in verse 3. But a lot happens by the time we get to verse 3, okay? So we're opening up the book of 1 Samuel. So there's a guy, and his name is Elkanah, okay? And he's married to this lady named Hannah. But he's also married to this lady named Peninnah. So this is where the plot thickens. Let me just tell you something, man. You can only handle one. That's enough for you, trust me. Ask my husband. So this guy has 2 wives, and Hannah, she can't have any children. But Peninnah has all of his children, sons and daughters. So you already know there's going to be conflict between them. And this is where we jump in. So read with me in verse 3. It should be up on the screen, or you can open the Word of God. And it says, now this man, talking about Elkanah, used to go up year by year from his city to worship and to sacrifice to the Lord of hosts at Shiloh, where the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were priests of the Lord. On the day when Elkanah sacrificed, he will give portions to Peninnah, his wife, and to all of her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he gave a double portion because he loved her, though the Lord had closed her womb. And her rival, that's Peninnah, used to provoke her grievously to irritate her because the Lord had closed her womb. So it went on year by year. As often as she went up to the house of the Lord, Peninnah used to provoke her. Therefore Hannah wept and would not eat. And Elkanah, her husband, said to her, Hannah, why do you weep, and why do you not eat? And why is your heart sad? Am I not more to you than 10 sons? After they had eaten and drunk in Shiloh, Hannah rose. Now Eli the priest was sitting on the seat beside the doorpost on the temple of the Lord. She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord, and she wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look on the affliction of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give to your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head. I'm going to stop right there. But honestly, the story just keeps on getting better, and I'm going to get to that. But the reason I want to stop right here is because there's already so many things. I'm just like, oh my gosh, there's so many good things I want you to see. And the very first thing I want to show you right now is in verse 5 when it says, but to Hannah, he gave a double portion. So based on the circumstance and based on the situation, Hannah didn't really deserve a double portion. She wasn't able to do the one thing that she was supposed to do in that time, just give him children. But it didn't matter. Elkanah had a special place in his heart for her. He loved her, and he gave her a double portion. And this is a beautiful reminder that is how the Lord sees us. It doesn't matter what we have done or haven't done. He loves us, and he has called us favored. So Hannah means, I looked up, I was like, I wonder what Hannah means, because this is really sweet, this talk about the double portion. Hannah literally means favored by God. So I'm like, okay, the Lord is doing something here. He does no thing by accident. He had chosen Hannah to be favored before anything ever happened to her. So I want to talk about favor for a minute, because favor is not based on our circumstances. Favor is not manufactured by our abilities. Favor is not determined by whether you've been good or bad or whether you've had a successful day or not. Favor is based on identity. Favor is based on who God says we are, not based on what we have done or not done. And Hannah was favored before she knew her womb was closed. During her womb being closed, she was favored. And after she was favored. Favor is there all along. However, many of us, including Hannah in this situation, will live our lives without maybe seeing the favor, without feeling favored. I want to talk today about the first point I want to tell you guys is that mama faith flows favor. So we realize that favor is found in identity, and the favor of God is placed on his kids. But while favor comes from identity, it flows in our life when we activate our faith. Favor is already there, but it doesn't begin to manifest until you do something about it. And this is what he wanted Hannah to do. The Lord already called her, but he wanted her to take a step of faith so that she would see her miracle. And a lot of times I feel like this is me. I'm walking around feeling like this doesn't seem like it's what the Lord wants for me. I don't understand if I'm favored by God, why my situation seems to be going the way it has. But the Lord has reminding me, are you being obedient to what God is calling you to do? Are you taking the step of faith? Are you searching me? Are you seeking me? Because the favor is there and it's only waiting to be activated once we step into the faith. So Hannah was set apart. God had a big assignment for her, but it was up to her to activate her faith so that favor would begin to flow in her life. The next thing I want to point to you in this story is that Hannah had an enemy. The enemy is real. You and I know that. The enemy attacks. Hannah's enemy was named Peninnah. And I'm sorry, but every time I think of the name Peninnah, I think of paninis. And I don't know what you think of, but I legitimately, this whole time I was reading Peninnah, I'm like, I'm just getting really hungry for some paninis. So good thing I had breakfast this morning, or I would have had someone go make me a panini somehow. Well, the kitchen back there. But thank you, babe. I'm gonna go. So Hannah had an enemy. Her name was Panini. You and I have an enemy, and Peninnah. Like legitimately, that was not even an accident. Paninis. I'm gonna have to have panini for lunch. So Hannah's enemy was Peninnah, not Panini, and our enemy is real too. His name is not Peninnah or Panini. Maybe that is your enemy. Maybe you're struggling with paninis, but the enemy is real, and he provokes us and he aggravates us. The enemy wants us broken and miserable, just like Hannah. But it is with our mama faith, that the relentless faith to not give up, that what do? We turn void all of the lies of the enemy, right? We can decide to turn the situation. We can decide to not listen to the enemy. And so my second point for today is that mama faith cancels the enemy. James 4:7 reminds us that if we submit ourselves to God and then resist the devil, he will flee from you. I want to remind us right now, I want to remind us today that it's always too soon to quit. It is always too soon to let the devil win. I remember a time, it was 2 months after I gave birth to Maverick. So it was during those 2 months of postpartum. And they tell you about the whole postpartum period, and you're like, yeah. I was not ready. Like, it was really hard for me, and I found myself in a really hard place. And if I had to label it, which I never officially labeled it, but looking back, I would say I was in a state of postpartum depression and anxiety. And I've never suffered from anxiety. And this was, if you suffer from anxiety, I'm praying in Jesus' name right now that he takes that away. It was the worst feeling in the world. I had an unrealistic fear of leaving the house. Like, I could not leave the house. I thought something bad was going to happen to me and to Maverick. And I was in such a dark place. I remember just sitting in the nursery floor, holding Maverick and just bawling my eyes out. And I was in a really hard season in my life, and I feel like that is when the enemy loves to attack the most. He knows we're vulnerable. And he began to tell me all the lies. Like, what have you done? You can't be a mom. You're not good as a mom. You can't even make your baby stop crying. Bad things are going to happen to you if you leave the house. You have lost your identity. You don't know who you are anymore. All the things you wanted to do before babies, now you can't do. You're in bondage. And the lies of the enemy begin to seep in. And the problem is that sometimes we're so vulnerable that we begin to listen and we begin to believe those lies. I know I'm not the only one that's been there before. I mean, guys, I know you don't struggle from postpartum depression and anxiety, but you have the same struggles as well. You find yourselves in a low place, and the enemy likes to sweep in. And I remember crying out to the Lord, because I thank the Lord that even in times where I feel like he's so distant, he's still so true to who he is. And so thankful that I had a husband that every single day, no matter all the negative and awful things I was saying at him, he would speak truth to me. And I told the Lord, I said, Lord, help me. I don't know what to do. I was crying on the floor, much like Hannah, weeping bitterly, coming before the Lord. And sometimes we think, okay, I'm gonna come before the Lord, and He's just gonna pick me up out of that situation and put me in a safe place. But this is what He said to me. He said, Liseth, I need you to take one step of faith. Okay, so what that meant for me, and it could be totally different for you, but what that meant for me was putting worship music on and just having it on all day throughout the house. And then I took another step of faith, and that was listening to scripture all day, every day, putting it on inside the house. And then what that meant was literally going outside by myself with Maverick. And that seems so silly to you, but that was a step of faith that I had to take. And when we were outside walking around, the Lord's like, look, you're safe. Nothing's going to happen to you. And that is how we cancel the lies of the enemy. We think we need some kind of supernatural big move, and sometimes there's those small steps of faith that begins to cancel all the lies of the enemy and begins to bring us into freedom. The Lord's like, you see, nothing's happening to you. No one's getting you. And I'm like, oh yeah, Lord, you're right. And all the lies of the enemy, I began to cancel them when I began to take steps of faith. And I want to encourage some of you guys today. You could be literally one prayer away from your miracle. You could be one shout of praise away from your deliverance. You could be one step of faith. I'm going to go to church today. I'm going to commit to serve today. I'm going to tithe today. You could be one step of faith away from your breakthrough. So it's always too soon to quit. And if you feel like quitting today, I want to remind you, by faith, we cancel the enemy. Don't listen to him. It is always too soon to quit. And you're just one step away, one faith step away. So in this story, I'm going to keep going. We see that Hannah, she didn't let the attacks of the enemy keep her from going to the house of the Lord. And I love that. I mean, this lady was distraught. You see it. She wouldn't eat. She was weeping bitterly because circumstances, they hurt. The infertility, I see it all the time in my line of work, and I can't even imagine the pain. I know there's women in this room right now. That hurts. The disappointment. Miscarriage hurts. Divorce hurts. Losing your job hurts. And I do feel like the Lord is not saying, you better not cry when something bad happens to you. You better stay strong. You better not let this get to you. The Lord is okay with our disappointment and our tears and feeling distraught. And what He's asking for you and I is not to fake it till we make it. He's asking us to faith it till we make it. He's asking us to take a step of faith in the moment where everything seems to be falling apart. So I'm going to keep telling the story because it just only gets better. So Hannah was praying so hard to the Lord. So we saw that she came to the Lord and she prayed and vowed and said, Lord, give me a son and I will dedicate him to you. Well, she continued praying, and she was praying so hard that Eli the priest, ESL, took her for a drunken woman. He came up to her to rebuke her. When was the last time you prayed so hard someone thought you were drunk? Come on now. Here, I want to remind you, there are some people, don't let anyone shame you or guilt you for the way that you pray or you worship the Lord. They don't know where you've been. They don't know the obstacles that you've had to overcome. They don't know the faith that it's taken you to be here. So if you need to act like you're drunk to pray and to get close to the Lord and to pour out yourself before the Lord, you do it. And this was Hannah. She was praying out. She was pouring out her soul to the Lord. And here comes the priest. He's like, well, I can't have a drunk woman in here, naturally. And so then he goes to her, and just when he's going to rebuke her, she says, no, my Lord. I love how gracious she is. She says, no, my Lord. I'm not drunk. I'm a woman in pain, but I have come to the Lord to pour out my soul before him. And then Eli is taken back. He looks at her and says, go in peace. May the Lord grant you your petition. And then Hannah picks herself up, wipes her tears, lifts her chin. And you know what she does? She walks out of there believing like, thank you. Yes, I will take that word. I will hold on to the words that you have just spoken, that the Lord has just placed a miracle inside of me. She leaves believing, having the faith to believe, even though she didn't get pregnant right then in that instance, she walked away like she did. And the scripture says, in due time, the Lord remembered Hannah, and she bore a child. My third point for today is that mama faith, this relentless faith, this faith to not give up, this mama faith opens doors. Revelation 3:7 reminds us that what God shuts, no one can open. But what God opens, no one can shut. So I want to point out a fact, because you're like, well, that's really nice, but the Lord did shut her womb. That seems a little harsh. Because honestly, we humans think we know what's best a lot of the times. We know what justice is. That's the problem. So I'm not going to lie to you. Yes, God did shut Hannah's womb, but it wasn't just to be mean. He had a purpose all along. And in this instance, in this story, he needed to shut Hannah's womb so that she would build her faith to raise a child that just wasn't going to be any ordinary boy. He was going to bring salvation and prophetic words to his people. He needed Hannah to raise a warrior. He needed Hannah to raise a prophet. He needed Hannah to raise someone who was going to able to deliver the people of Israel. So why did God shut Hannah's womb? So that she would open up her mouth. Why are you in the situation that you're in right now? Maybe you need to open up your mouth. You need to open up your mouth in prayer. You need to open up your mouth in praise. You need to open up your mouth in worship. Our situations don't dictate who we are already. Just because you're in a bad place doesn't mean that you're a bad person. Just because you're in a bad place doesn't mean that this is where you're supposed to be. Our situations don't dictate who we are, but our situations should allow us to stand more rooted and more firm in who God is. It sucks right now. Well, this means I just got to get closer to the Lord. This is hard right now. Maybe he wants me to open up. Maybe he wants me to give him a shout of praise. Maybe he wants me to believe that for once in my life, this is not how my life needs to turn out. This is how we fight our battles. We literally don't need any weapons. We have praise and prayer. This is our weapon of choice. This is what unlocks doors. I remember a really hard time in our life when we had sold our house and we were in the market. We were looking for a new house. And overall, should be an exciting time. We're going to find our new home. This is going to be a big next step in our family. Like after this, we're going to maybe start trying for a family. And so we were very excited. And then 100 houses later, it felt like, you're like, well, this is not so exciting anymore. Rejection, no, your offer didn't get accepted. No, this house is way overpriced and we don't even like it that much. Why are we going to settle? And so it felt like what was supposed to be really exciting became discouraging and disappointing. And just at the time, and again, it was in that moment where I was like, the devil is so silly. That's my new word with Maverick. I'm like, that's so silly. Everything's silly. He took our discouragement and our disappointment and was like, this is opportune time. Here we go. Yeah, all the lies began to come in. Yeah, you're not going to get a great house. Your house is you're just going to have to settle. or you're going to just have to pay a bunch of money. And so in that moment, I remember choosing to take a step of faith, choosing to remind ourselves who we are. We're not just any other regular people. We're God's favored children. There's favor on our lives. So we're going to open up our mouths and we're going to choose to speak that God's going to bring us an incredible house, the house of our dreams. We begin to change the way we were, like, not another house. No, great opportunity. We get to look at another house, potentially our dream home. And I remember so vividly, there's some memories in your mind that you're like, I will never forget this. I remember pulling up to this house that we're about to look at. And I just was speechless when he's like, do you remember this house? I was like, yeah, I remember this house. 5 years ago, we had come to this house, and we had snuck in the back of this house. Yeah, it was vacant, okay? But still, we had snuck in the back, and we had prayed. There was some rocks that built a wall, like there was like a retaining wall, and we had knelt down and prayed over this house as a symbol for what the Lord was going to do one day. He's going to, like, at this point, like 5 years, like this was like 10 years ago now. We couldn't afford that house. It was a symbol, okay? Like we weren't dumb. Like we knew like God is going to bring us to a house. So it was a symbol of what the Lord was going to do. Well, 5 years later, the Lord is pulling us up in front of this house. And I'm walking in it, like, pretending to be like, but I'm just like, yeah, like, dancing through the whole house. Just being like, yeah, this is it. This is the house. This is the house the Lord has brought us to. And we paid for that house less than asking, like, way less than asking. Because what God opens, no one can shut. And you know what he was waiting for? He was waiting for Mac and I to be ready for it. And when we finally decided, Lord, it looks impossible. We had looked at 100 houses, but nothing is impossible for you. Everything is possible for you, Lord. He literally pulled us up next to this house. You know, often we don't understand God's ways until he completes his plan. So if you're in the middle of it and you don't understand what he's doing, maybe it's time for you to continue building up that mama faith that is in you, to stand more firm than you've ever been, to decide, I'm not quitting today. I'm gonna have faith another day. So yes, God did close Hannah's womb, but he opened it back up. And he gave her a son. And not just a son, he gave her Samuel, so that he would go and prophesy to his people, so that he would go and appoint the first ever king of Israel, King Saul. This is that guy. So that he would then go to anoint and to call David, as in King David. We know who King David is today because of Samuel. We know who Samuel is because of Hannah. But we know who Hannah is because the Lord closed her womb. There wouldn't be a story if she hadn't had to walk through and have the faith for a son.
Wow, thank you so much for joining us right here online, all of my authentic family out there. Hey, I want to encourage you guys to stay connected with everything we have going on here. I believe that the Lord is using more now than ever media. He is using online platforms and resources in so many different ways. Take advantage of all of the encouragement that we have available for you every single week on both our Instagram or follow our page on Facebook. Hey, for those of you guys who want to partner with us with your finances, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can go to authentic.church and give under the Give tab, or you can give through Venmo. Hey, I love you, and I'll see you next week.